Alright, y'all, here is your daily cut into what happened in the NBA on January 1st, the first day of 2021. We had a full 10-game slate with plenty of games and content to get into, and as always, I'll have some timestamps in the description so you can bounce around from game to game as you please. But with that being said, let's get into the first game. The Pistons got their first win of the season over the Boston Celtics after a 24-point performance from Jeremy Grant. To put this game simply, the Pistons played just well enough to beat the Celtics on what was a off night for them. They got a big lead early and then they just held on to it. There was a late game bid from the Celtics, but in the end, obviously it wasn't enough. The main thing here is that the growth of Jeremy Grant from the start of the bubble has truly been insane. Everyone knew him as the third or maybe even fourth option on a Nuggets team that went to the conference finals. He played very well in the playoffs, locking down other teams' top players and providing some scoring bursts here and there. But when he signed on to the Pistons this offseason, a lot of people questioned whether he would actually be able to maintain the status of a number one option, and to a lot of people's surprise, he's actually been doing pretty well. Although he's had plenty of inefficient scoring nights, he has had plenty of scoring nights. In the past 4 games, he's scored at 28, 27, 27, and then 24 last night. So he's definitely been consistent, and he's now averaging, I think, around 23 points on the season. And I mean, it's the Pistons. They're not winning many games, but he is playing like a number one guy. And as for the Celtics, this was a very, very bad loss. Both Tatum and Brown, they scored 28 and 25 respectively, and I think the Celtics are used to winning these types of games where the two Jays have themselves a night and score well and play well in general. But the big issue was that the Celtics as a team shot 8 of 31 from 3, which, I've said it plenty of times now, that's good enough to have any team lose on any given night with that poor shooting. And plus, over the last 4 minutes of the game, the Celtics scored 0 points, which, again, that's just, if you want to win basketball games at the NBA level, you can't have things like that. You can't go scoreless for 4 entire minutes, whether it be at the end of the games or even at any point throughout the game. It will be tough to overcome that. And so far, to start the season, the Celtics are sitting at 3-3 now, which isn't the best, but the worrisome thing has been that their offense has looked pretty terrible. Outside of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum going and getting theirs, there's been no flow, no one else is stepping up or hitting shots. Obviously, some guys have had some nice nights, but as a team in general, their offense has just been very stagnant, and I, for one, cannot wait for Kemba Walker to get back because hopefully he can get some flow and some actual movement back into this terrible offense. In Charlotte, the Grizzlies got another win with their depleted roster in what was overall a pretty gross game, to be honest. Dillon Brooks had a team-high 21 points, while Kyle Solomo Anderson and Jonas Valanciunas both chipped in with some double-doubles of their own. And overall, I mean, I just really like what I've seen from this depleted Grizzlies roster. Obviously, they're missing Ja, they're missing Jaren Jackson Jr., and D'Anthony Melton's been out for a while now. And it's just nice to see the veteran Kyle Anderson stepping up and providing some sort of a backbone to what's left of this Grizzlies team. It was also very nice to see Tyus Jones finish with 12 assists and only 1 turnover in the starting spot as he's filling in for Ja Morant. I've said in the past, but this is going to be a very good little stretch of development time for Tyus Jones as he takes over the starting point guard job and is now the coach on the court. He has the playmaking responsibilities all on his shoulders, and he's performing well so far. And as for the Hornets, I'm just becoming so sick of it. Like, Hornets fans, how can you look at this box score and just continue to start Rozier and Devontae Graham? That duo shot a combined 2 of 21 from the field. They scored 9 combined points in 53 combined minutes. Meanwhile, LaMelo scored 15 in 27 minutes. And in addition to that, Rozier and Graham had 7 assists in their same 53 minutes, while LaMelo had 6 all by himself. I understand that these are numbers from one game, and we have a whole season to look forward to, but you drafted LaMelo to be your future, and again, the whole seniority thing with Rozier and Graham, but LaMelo is your future, just start him. The Miami Heat had a very, very rough night in Dallas as they were not able to top the 27, 15, and 7 performance from Luka Doncic. In this game, the Mavericks really didn't even play all that good. It just so happened that the Heat played a whole lot worse. But in speaking about the Mavericks, Luka was at the forefront of a lot of criticism over the past couple of games, and he seems to have come back into his usual play at least a little bit. His three-point shooting still wasn't amazing. He shot 3 of 10, although he hit more threes in this one game than he had in the previous 4 games, so he has that going for him. But in the end, this felt a lot more like a Mavs team that we're used to watching, with Luka playing as he usually does. And as for the Heat, this was the second pretty bad loss in the span of 3 games. They had 31 points at the half, and by the end of the third quarter, they had 53, which that's just never going to get it done. They did this. They shot 7 of 33 from 3, which was good for around 21%. And again, normally I would just write this off as a bad offensive night. These things happen. But like I said, this is the second game in the span of 3 for the Heat where it's been pretty bad offensive efforts and blowouts. And, it's been noted that this Heat offense has been struggling to start the season. Jimmy Butler hasn't been playing. This was his first game back from the ankle injury tonight, and he didn't really play all that well. So again, I think this might just be a case of some guys having to get healthy, but this Heat team, it's definitely going to be something to monitor, as their offense just cannot put up points right now. In Brooklyn, the Hawks got the win to split the little 2-game series they had with the Nets, and that was thanks to a 64-point combined performance from Trae Young, John Collins, and DeAndre Hunter, while Clint Capella also added a double-double. And at this point, you have to ask, the Hawks went out and were big spenders this offseason. They brought in Gallinari and Bogdanovic for a combined $37 million to play in the season, and you just have to ask yourself, was that even necessary? Because so far, Cam Reddish, DeAndre Hunter, John Collins, they've all been playing absolutely amazing to start the season. DeAndre, they were all the top scorers from this past game. Obviously, they still have Trae Young at the start of at the lead in these games as well. But all the young guys seem to be taking huge leaps at the same time, and things are just looking very good for this Atlanta Hawks team. It might even raise the question of, was it even necessary to go out and spend all that money? Because the past couple of games, Bogdanovic hasn't been playing all that well. He's been coming off the bench and playing 20-25 minutes a night. Gallinari has barely even been able to stay healthy to start the season, and yet still these Hawks are finding themselves at the top of the conference. They have one of, if not the best offense in the entire NBA right now. The defense isn't terrible, but could use a little bit of work. And again, it just raises the question, was it even necessary to go spend all that money when you could have saved it and maybe extended these young guys? John Collins, who is in a bit of a contract negotiation situation right now. As for the Nets, KD dropped 28 in the losing effort, and although Kyrie added a double-double, it was probably one of his worst outings of the season so far, as he just shot really inefficiently and couldn't really get things going. Everyone on this Nets team seemed to struggle. I've been hyping up TLC, Timothé Luwawu-Cabarrot. He got the start tonight in place of Spencer Dinwiddie and didn't really play well at all. Karis LeVert, usually a sturdy bench supporter, didn't play that well at all, and overall, Nets team shot 7 of 37 from 3, which, as I always say, just one of those bad shooting nights, but is never going to get the job done in the NBA, so Nets lose another one. In Milwaukee, Giannis came 2 assists shy of a 29-point triple-double, and the Bucks trounced the Bulls in a game that went just about as you would expect it would. There's not much to talk about for the Bucks, so I'm just going to shout out Bobby Portis. I was disappointed when he signed with the Knicks all those years ago. I was very happy to see him be let go and sign on a contending team that could actually use his talent, because this is a guy who is nearing his prime. Portis is an excellent scorer, a tall wing scorer that can also grab your rebounds, and he's looking like one of the more consistent, solid options off of this Milwaukee bench so far, and I'm just excited to see him actually be able to produce on a team that needs it. And for the Bulls, they're going to continue the theme of bad three-point shooting on this day, and they shot 6 of 26 themselves, which you already know I'm going to say, but since there wasn't a whole lot else to talk about for the Bulls, I'm just going to say Wendell Carter is starting to turn things around. He was a big focal point this offseason in the removal of Jim Boylan and the addition of Billy Donovan as a head coach. And Wendell Carter's development, again, that was a big focal point for the team. And after a very rough start, he's starting to turn it around, and he's starting to produce a little bit like we expected him to do. And in Minnesota, we saw Washington also pick up their first win of the season, leaving no more winless teams in the NBA, and this was thanks to a 31-point performance from Brad Beal as Russell Westbrook sat out for some rest. Don't let the narratives get to you though. Just because Russell Westbrook wasn't on the court doesn't mean that the Wizards are better without him. This just happened to be a game where the Wizards played a very, very bad, catless Timberwolves team. That this was a game they should have won, and I'm very happy they did because their schedule coming up, as I noted yesterday, is a doozy. One bright spot on this Wizards team that I haven't really talked about much though is Deni Avdija. He hasn't put up insane numbers in terms of the box score, but he's making plenty of plays each and every night where you kind of think to yourself and say, this looks like a 5-year vet, not an NBA rookie who just came in from Israel. And that's what I love about Avdija. He's come in, he's ready to play, and most importantly, one big doubt going into the draft process was his shooting, and so far through 5 or so games, however many they played, his shooting lines have been just fine. He's knocking down threes at around a mid-40s rate, which will probably regress a little bit, but again, he's shooting very well. His shooting is fine. He seems to be a very good pickup for this Washington team. As for the Timberwolves, I think it is officially time to announce that we really should just expect them to lose every game without Karl Anthony Towns. I know this has been a thing in the past that we should expect and we should have remembered from the past, but yeah, this Timberwolves team is bad. This is about what we expected from them, especially again now that Cat is out of the lineup, and yeah, they're not a great team. In San Antonio, we got one of the more fun games of the night as AD dropped 34 and 11, and LeBron dropped a 26-point triple-double as the Lakers outlasted the San Antonio Spurs. For the Lakers, it was nice to finally catch a game where it was AD and LeBron doing most of the work. So far to start the season, they've been resting in a majority of their games, and other players like Schroeder, Montrezl Harrell, Wesley Matthews had a few good games, Kuzma's had a game or two. It's been a lot of the supporting cast that's been putting up points and getting the wins for the Lakers so far. So again, it was nice to see a game where it was old-fashioned LeBron and AD just going hard-nosed, dominating the paint. It was fun to watch. Other important news for the Lakers is that KCP had what looked to be a pretty bad ankle sprain. He'll probably be out for a couple of weeks, and while obviously we don't like injuries here, we wish KCP a speedy recovery, but this also does mean that we might be getting some more THT minutes, which we will welcome with open arms. As for the Spurs, the only name you really need to know from this one is Keldon Johnson, who had a career-high 26 points while also adding 10 rebounds and just having a great game against the reigning champs. He's averaging 15 and 7 to start his sophomore season, as he's already been inserted into the starting lineup pretty comfortably, and that's been in part due to his scoring and his just amazing defense. Even last night's game, we saw that he was playing defense on LeBron that was better than most, and again, he's a smaller guard. Actually, I don't want to say smaller guard, but compared to LeBron, he's a much smaller guard, and you would think that he would be known for his defense, but he is. He was playing it very well last night and almost got a win over the Lakers, which would have been pretty crazy. But between him, DeJounte Murray, and Lonnie Walker, I just don't know how you can be anything else but excited for the future of the San Antonio Spurs. And speaking of Spurs' future, Derek White also made his season debut yesterday. He had 9 points in 23 minutes, and I mean, for the most part, he looked fine. It was just, it was a get back into shape game for Derek White. I still expect very big things from him to start the season, as he showed out in the bubble, and I really hope it translates because he's a fun player to watch. And one other note for the Spurs, apparently DeMar DeRozan is shooting threes again this season. He's already shooting 7 of 13 through these first 5 games, and I checked the record books. He's currently 106 on the all-time scoring list, and I'm perfectly fine with the way DeRozan plays. I'm not going to hate on him for not shooting threes, but I do think that if he had been shooting threes his entire career, he maybe could have slipped into the top 50 all-time scoring list, which would have been pretty cool, but again, no hate towards DeRozan, he's still a baller. I just thought it was kind of fun to look into that. And in Denver, we had the Phoenix Suns outlast the Denver Nuggets after a late comeback attempt as Chris Paul played a hero and hit a big shot to send the Denver Nuggets to 1-4 and the Phoenix Suns to 5-1. I think it's already safe to say that the CP3 acquisition is paying off in dividends. Devin Booker doesn't have to play like a superstar every night. DeAndre Ayton is having some of his best games of his career so far to start the season, and he's developing at a pace that he definitely was not before acquiring Chris Paul. And just in addition to that, the Suns have the best record, the wings are playing better, everyone is playing better for the Suns team, and I think it's a large part due to Chris Paul and what he's done so far. And I just wanted to say that the Suns are so legit this season. I think we all underrated them a whole lot. Even even the people who might have placed them as a potential like 4 or 5 seed, they might have even underrated the Suns as well. This team is just looking so legit. They're gonna be a problem in the Western Conference. As for Denver, like I said, they're falling to 1-4 despite a 31-point performance from Jamal Murray. And now I think it's a good time to say that a little bit of worry is starting to set in for the Denver Nuggets. In this one, Jokic dealt with some foul trouble, but had a near triple-double anyway. And I don't know. There's no MPJ, so that might have made a difference in this one as well. But the Nuggets just continue to lose these close games. They've lost 2 of the Kings that they were within 10. They now lose this one to the Suns, where they just started off so poorly that they had to crawl their way back and just didn't have enough left in the tank. But I'm just confused because usually Jokic is able to step up in these late game scenarios and get them the win, but that just hasn't been happening. I haven't looked into anything, so I don't know if he's just not playing as well or if defenses are just really focusing on him, but it's strange. One bright spot is that JaMychal Green made his season debut and he played well. He had an 8-4-2 stat line in 12 minutes. I'd assume he's going to get more minutes from here on out, and he's going to continue to produce at a very steady rate. In Utah, the Jazz got a very big win against the Los Angeles Clippers behind 33 points from Mike Conley. He just continues to have a very good start to his season after a poor season last year, and he's averaging 21, 5, and 5 on 47, 45, 85 shooting splits. And he's just been very key in stepping up, whereas Mitchell and Bogdanovic continue to be in a slump to start the year. But again, the supporting cast is stepping up so far this season, and they're a big reason why the Jazz aren't having a horrendous start to the year. And another person who had a great game yesterday was Joe Ingles. He had 11, 8, and 7 off the bench in 33 minutes of play. Came very close to a triple-double. We always got love for Joe Ingles around here for the not as athletic people who aspire to play basketball at a high level. And yeah, Jazz got a big one. As for the Clippers, they had a huge comeback led by 25 points from Paul George, while Kawhi also almost had a triple-double. He was 1 assist away. In the end, it was not enough though. Overall, it was just one of those nights for the Clippers, poor shooting all around, but luckily for them, this is only their second loss of the season, as they've had a pretty good start. They're still in a very good place, 6 games in. And again, it could be a lot worse. Just look around the league. You have teams like the Nuggets who are losing games, Celtics are losing games, Bucks are losing games. Everyone's losing games, so it's good for the Clippers to get out to an early lead and maintain it. Finally, in the last game of the night, we had the Blazers completely blow out the Warriors behind Dame, who had 34 and 8, while CJ also chipped in 28 of his own. This was a good Covington and Derrick Jones Jr. game, although I think it is safe to say that the Warriors can make anyone look good, so I'm yet to call this a big game for them because, again, they're playing the Warriors. In other news for the Blazers, Melo passed Tim Duncan on the all-time scoring list in last night's game, so congrats to Melo. He was one of the early NBA players who got me invested into the game, so I'll always thank Melo for what he did, and again, congrats to Melo. As for the Warriors, Steph had 26 in a losing effort, and this Warriors team, they're starting to look more and more cooked as every game they play just ends in heartbreak for Curry and everyone that's a fan of the Warriors. Oubre and Wiggins just continue to struggle shooting the ball and just scoring in general. Draymond came back, and although he only played in the low 20s in minutes, I mean, it's becoming clear that he's not going to be some messiah that comes and saves the day for them. He's going to play well, but it's not going to be enough to turn around their entire season. And the worst part of it all is I think this losing is really getting to Steph. He always looks very frustrated on the bench, and I just really hope that he can get through the season because, they can get Clay back. They can maybe make some moves in free agency to get a little bit more talent on the roster because right now this roster is just not good. That'll do it for this daily cut video of what happened on January 1st. As always, leave your comments down below what you thought about these games, and outside of that, leave a like if you enjoyed this video or enjoy this type of content, and as always, most importantly, thank you for watching.